around celebrities. I mean,
we did.
I take a dump. He's waiting for me. You on Southwest Airlines? It's crazy.
I know.
Let's do a show.
Hey, guess what, Fish? We're live now. And guess what? We're going to be talking with a lawyer who has repped both pro athletes and major actors. And he can talk about the Red Sox, Super Bowls, and major golf events that he is at all the time. Plus, we turn to him to explain some legal sports issues. He is Boston lawyer Ken Lakin, who's also keeping an eye on the Red Sox-Yanks doubleheader nightcap today. And we finally hear from Doug Flynn, the former major leaguer who was supposed to be on the show, but couldn't because of technical difficulties. Did we clear up the tech problems? Well, maybe and maybe not. You decide. Plus, we find out Doug has just won an Emmy. Plus, our Schmuck of the Week sadly comes from the stands of an NFL preseason game. And who's got the swag is a tennis player giving back big to hard-hit Haiti. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Daily Fish. John Daly here, along with Eric Snyder, a.k.a. Fish. We are coast to coast, coming to you from Las Vegas and also Myrtle Beach. We talk sports, entertainment, and everything in between. Fish, we got another good one tonight.
Ready. Let's go.
All right, time for the Daily Grind. Let's get grinding first. TV ratings show us the reality of U.S. sports. The field of dreams tilt between the White Sox and the Yanks had a Hollywood ending, and baseball's highest-rated game in 16 years on television. Great, but not higher than a previous World Series game? And the Field of Dreams numbers were way below the NFL Hall of Fame game between the Steelers and Cowboys the week before. Fish, numbers don't lie. Football rules. Can we fix baseball?
We can only fix baseball if the powers that be that run baseball, and we've talked about this on previous shows, wake up to the 21st century. Every other sports we talk about, NHL, NBA, and the NFL, all tweak their rules to bring in more millennials and bring in people and bring in the females and spice it up. It's crazy. Like I said, we talk about you and I are trying to save baseball, but when in a game like the Field of Dreams is your number one rated baseball game in 16 years, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, I agree. Well, they should make us commissioner. All right, next. Don't get a job. Instead, rummage through your attic. A rare Honus Wagner baseball card just sold for a record $6.6 million. It beat a 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle card that sold at $5.2 million in January. And in April, LeBron's rookie jersey signed fetched a similar $5.2 million. Fish, I'm going to my attic now. I'll see you later.
It's crazy. Yeah, I don't blame you. And I have cards somewhere, and my son has them, and even Pokemon cards. There's value to these things, and the Pokemon cards came out 20 years ago. My grandmother Rose, rest in peace. One of our uncles back in New York worked for Topps, and gave my uncle Richard, rest in peace, a bunch of cards. And they moved to California. They threw them all out. We'd be billionaires right now, you and I. We'd be sitting on a beach in Tahiti if we had all those rookie cards at Ty Cobb. But I'll tell you what. There are people out there that I guarantee you they're rummaging through their attics and their cellars looking for a card. And we're going to know someone that, hey, my God, I just found a Pete Rose rookie card or something, a signed jersey from him, and they're going to have $2 million. So hey, maybe it's you or me, John. We'll never know.
Well, we'll have to find out. All right. Next, each week before the NFL season, we will run down two divisions. Tonight, the AFC and the NFC Western divisions for you. Okay, Fish, can anyone overtake Mahomes and the Chiefs in the AFC West?
I'm not a homer. Look in the background. You can figure out what my team is. Well, are they vastly improved? Do I think the Raiders are going to go to 17-game season? Do I think they'll go 12-5 or 11-6? Yes. Not Mr. Skeptic, but Patrick Mahomes is something we haven't seen in a long time. And Andy Reid's a terrific coach. And we'll do our Super Bowl predictions the week before the season starts. But you see where I'm leaning. The Chargers are a much improved team. Justin Herbert won Rookie of the Year last year, John. They have a new coach in Brandon Staley, a defensive-minded guy from Anthony Lino they had before. I'm concerned about that. And then the Denver Broncos, if Von Miller and Bradley Chubb on defense could play to their level and they can get some good quarterbacking out of Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater, this is going to be a tough division. It could be a division where Derek Carr, Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Drew Lock could be a tough division of quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think so. I'm I'm kind of thinking that the Chiefs are so keen to avenge that loss to Brady. I do see them winning the division. I think their big test is going to be the Browns in week 1 for the conference.
I agree.
Okay. All right, let's go to the NFC West. Is Matthew Stafford, is he the answer to the Rams getting past the Seahawks?
You know what? There's so much accolades and there's so much positive thoughts about Matthew Stafford, who's a 12-year veteran that's 0-3 in the playoffs, and I think he's 74-90 as a starting quarterback with the Lions. I mean, that trade, they traded Jared Goff and 2 number ones. I like Jared Goff. I think he's a great quarterback. Do I think he's a missing piece? Probably, because I'll tell you why. That's the number 1 defense in the NFL, and Aaron Donald is he's a beast. But you got Seattle. Russell Wilson, they have never had a losing record with this guy as a starting quarterback. They're 12-4 last year, and they said they had distractions. They're 12-4.
Yeah.
Okay. The 49ers, 2 years ago, went to the Super Bowl. They were the most injury-riddled team last year, and injuries are an excuse in football. It's the reason why Kyle Shanahan, their head coach, was in the running for Coach of the Year. All right. The Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray's a good young quarterback. They're an 8-8 team. They pick up J.J. Watt. That team's something to watch out for. That's a tough division, competitive division. I wouldn't be surprised if the 2 wild cards come out of that division along with the division winner.
Yep, I'm with you too. I'm kind of leaning to the 49ers as a big surprise, but we'll decide that before the opening week. All right, and finally on the grind, Zachary Levi of Marvel's Shazam fame will play QB Kurt Warner in the American Underdog, the Kurt Warner story. Warner, as many of you know, is a 2-time MVP, also a Super Bowl champ in 2000. The film showcases his struggles and the family behind him to make it to the top. It is a great, great story. I definitely want to see this. But one of the things I'm going to watch is Dennis Quaid, who I know Dennis. We played golf together. He's going to be playing Coach Dick Vermeil.
I love Dennis Quaid. I love Dennis Quaid in his performance. I believe it was Wyatt Earp when he played Doc Holliday. I know you get to compare him to Val Kilmer playing him in Tombstone. I thought he was just brilliant in that. And isn't it amazing that Dick Vermeil is now portrayed in 2 films? He was portrayed by Greg Kinnear in the movie Invincible, a true story about Vince Papale. Mark Wahlberg played the lead. So it's going to be fun to watch. Great story about Kurt Warner. You know, it's like Tim Tebow got cut today by the Jaguars. I predicted that he'd make the team. I was wrong. He saw a lot of jerseys, but he's a great person. Kurt Warner marries a woman named Brenda who's got a mentally challenged kid, has 4 kids. He works bagging groceries. He plays ball in Europe. He goes to the Arena League. And then the Wally Pip happened. Trent Green gets injured, John, in a 1999 preseason game. Warner comes in. Dick Vermeil's crying. Well, we're going to rally around. And Kurt Warner. They go to the Super Bowl and they win. I can't wait to see this movie because I think it's a brilliant story about a brilliant and passionate and just the kind of guy you want your daughter to marry, human being.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even though we know the ending, dying to see it as well. All right. Questions or comments during the show, use the chat box here or email us at dailyfish1, the number 1 at gmail.com, or post to Facebook at daily.fish.5. Better yet, record yourself short and tight on your smartphone and send it to dailyfish1 at gmail.com. All right, time for some binge watching. I am going to go to an old standby that I actually mentioned before. It's Grace and Frankie. And the reason they're doing that is that they just released the first 5 episodes of their 7th and final season. Now, a lot of people, I know it's about old people, but really, the young characters in this are also fabulous. It's been running since 2015. Fish, your thoughts on that, and then tell me your pick, because I know it's in my neck of the woods.
Grace and Frankie's great. Very entertaining. And it's a solid show for many seasons. The writing never levels off. It's great. So I agree. And, you know, if they can close it out, great. Remember we talked about Dexter and other shows. It just can't close out, like Shameless and Weeds. It starts great and then it ends with the writers mailing it in. So I'm watching. But I'm watching a show right now. This is in your neck of the woods. It's called Outer Banks.
It's a good show.
I've been down there in Nag's Head, and it's true. It's true in that area of the United States. Do you remember the old movie by S.C. Hinton, Francis Ford Coppola directed, John, called The Outsiders?
Yeah.
Many of us read the book in junior high school. There was the Greasers and the Socias. Well, the Greasers are called the Pogues in that part of North Carolina, and the Socias are called the Kooks. You know, and it's about how a Greaser falls in love with a kook. But the real story is there's buried treasure off the coast of Carolina during the time of, the pirate days. and it's a Cougs. It's basically a race between the Cougs and the Pogues to see who gets it. It's 2 seasons in. There's going to be a third season. Very, 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 very entertaining.
Yep, all good young actors too. All right, time for something fishy. What do we have, Fish?
Put my glasses off for this one. It's going back to my old days. You got to educate people about preseason football, and Vegas is a new entry into the National Football League as far as a fan base. Many people here know football. I get it. But if I could show you a course of the text and the emails I got and the voicemails about why Derek Carr and Marcus Mariota didn't play in the first preseason game, a lot, John, you know this, and I'm not trying to be ignorant about this or arrogant, but a lot of your star players don't play because injuries happen in football. All right. There's people text me saying, I can't believe we went to the Raider game and Carr didn't play, because NFL owners charge the same amount of money for a preseason game as they do a regular season game, John, which I think is blasphemy. That's nuts. But so what you're doing when you go to these games is expecting to see an action adventure Marvel movie starring Chris Hemsworth and Michael B. Jordan. And what you're really getting is the guys that are still alive from the cast of Saved by the Bell plane. All right. So it's you have to just look at the preseason as a way to see what the depth is of your team, but don't expect your starters to play. Okay, because injuries are going to happen. We've seen it with Carson Wentz. Just enjoy it. You got taken by the owners by paying all that money for the games. And remember this, when the season starts, you will see the Derek Carrs and the Aaron Rodgers and the Patrick Mahomes and the Ben Roethlisbergers and the Baker Mayfields for Terry starting quarterbacking on week 1.
Yep, it's like going to a AAA game. You got to go see what's coming up. All right. Still ahead, we have our Schmuck of the Week along with Who's Got the Swag. But now it's time for the Daily Fish Hook. We hooked former MLB star Doug Flynn. Now, I was with Dougie at the Hope for the Warriors golf tournament in Wallace, North Carolina this past weekend, and Dougie just found out he won an Emmy. So we wanted to get his reaction since, and you may remember this, a few weeks ago, he couldn't be on the show here with Johnny Bench because his internet stunk. Roll it, Fish.
All right, so you missed Daily Fish because of technical difficulties. What was going on there?
Well, yeah, and so in the yard, but I couldn't and see or hear.
Now, do you think Fish was the problem?
But anyway, I went over to, and then when we got to the other thing.
There we go. Talk about your Emmy Award. You just won an Emmy.
Is that stupid or what? I did. We got a little show called Kentucky Life in Kentucky, and they called me last night and said we won an Emmy for it. And I'm thinking, boy, we must really have some really good writers and good sound people. John, I know it's a shock because people like you are so gifted at this. I was just having a good time, and we got one, so I'm just very thankful.
It is a great show. Yeah. By the way, people should watch it. It's on PBS in Kentucky.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah.
And Doug is such a great guy. He's also a talented guy. I mean, he said nice things about me, about being a host or so. He is very, very talented. He's going to be back on the show with us in a couple of weeks. He thinks he's really got the internet thing fixed. Plus, you will see and hear a lot about his talents because we started talking about this when we were with Johnny Bench about, Doug has actually toured with some country music bands. That's what a great talent he is. He actually can sing. He's got great voice as well. He's got great stories. Plus, we're going to have him talk about baseball going down the stretch run there. So that should be a really good one.
Yeah, he blames me for everything, but what he just talked about on that thing is really what remedial English is taught in Kentucky. Okay, I think Kentucky's show is not about 18-year-old girls there getting ready to go to the prom with 17 teeth. It's not about new arrivals in Kentucky, John, which means it's a John Deere tractor with a 350 engine and double torque power. Okay, actually, Kentucky's a beautiful state, and he's a great guy. The guy toured with the Oak Ridge Boys in 1976. That's huge. Yeah. I mean, that's a top band. So can't wait to have him on. Be great.
Yep. He's definitely going to be on for a full show as well. All right. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Again, we are Daily Fish. We're live on Facebook Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We air on DBNA television on Roku, Amazon Fire, soon Apple TV. We stream 24/7 on the DBNA television website at dbnatelevision.com. Follow us and like us on Facebook at daily.fish.5 and subscribe on YouTube. All right. It's time for our Schmuck of the Week. And it's kind of a sad one. Who's been schmucky this week, Fish?
Yeah, I want to put a precursor to this and warn that this is not for if you have kids watching this right now. It's not great, but this has gone viral, and we have our own take on this. This happened during the Rams Chargers preseason game last Saturday at SoFi Stadium, John. And remind you, these seats are between $350 and $400. I'll go first.
Can you believe it?
The people there are schmucks, okay, but fights happen in stadiums. You and Ken will come on. You've been to baseball games. There's fights. There's fights in every stadium, and it's horrible. Where is the security? I've talked to people that were there in that section. There was no security there. That goes on. We just gave you a little blip of what happened. I don't want to show you the guy got his face is all bloody. That continued for a good 2-3 more minutes. No security. I have never been to a game in my life. I've been to hundreds of sporting events where security wasn't there within 30 seconds to 2 minutes. One. Number two, I'm going to make a prediction, okay, that when I first started going to football games in the 70s, you could drink throughout the entire game until the end of the game. And then somewhere in the 90s, it became halftime. They cut it off in some stadiums. It's idiots like this. They're going to take away the joy of guys like you and me that like to have an adult beverage at a game where we're not going to be able to have a beverage at a game. What do you think, John?
I think so too, and I think part of the problem is that they're having a hard time. All these teams are having a hard time hiring people to work the games, including security. So I think it's going to heighten what you're saying. It's going to move it even quicker. So I agree with you. So I don't know. To me, that's a sad story. I know we had to show it. We wanted to show it. We don't want to ingratiate everybody to violence, but that's what's happening. That's what you got to be aware of. And I do think things are going to change. All right. Shall we move on to who's got the swag this week? We got a good one too this week, Fish.
This is a better one. This is Naomi Osaka, and I'm in love with this woman because everything she represents as a person, the fact that she's got some mental issues, she has a hard time doing interviews, but because of the horrible, horrible earthquake that happened in Haiti, is there another country in the world, John, that's really taken it, the lumps like that country has, besides the weather going through right there? The 7.2 earthquake hit Haiti past week. And there's rubble everywhere, and there's death. And she's taken her whatever winning she has from the Western and Southern Open in Cincinnati. She's given it to the people of Haiti, and then the next tournament she's going to play, and she's doing the same thing. I mean, talk about it. Just a great person who has her own personal issues, but she still finds time to help others in need. Huge swag.
I agree. And just like you're saying, Haiti is reeling. More than 1,500 people have died from that 7.2 quake that was on Saturday. In addition, they were being hit with a tropical storm only weeks after Haiti's president was assassinated. So a good choice for people who need you, and all of us should be thinking about this. And, here's to you, Naomi. And we're going to toast Naomi with our drink of the week. But first, Daily Fish Drink of the Week is sponsored by Shucks Tavern in Vegas. Great seafood and drinks in 2 locations. Head to Shucks Tavern on North Durango on the northwest side of town where fish is overnight. Say Daily Fish Podcast, you get a free drink. Do it the next day, a free appetizer. That's Shucks Tavern. Check out Shucks Tavern on Facebook. All right, let's bring in tonight's guest who also brings us our drink of the week. Ken Lakin is an attorney representing athletes and actors for nearly 30 years with offices in Boston and Miami. He's also a former associate professor of entertainment and sports law at the Massachusetts School of Law. Plus, he is a legendary sports fan from the Boston area. Kenny, welcome to Daily Fish.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here and to meet you, Fish. Cheers with my Cape Cod drink of the cranberry mojito in honor of my great friend, John Daly, who we met back in the Ocean Spray Cranberry Golf Tournament on beautiful Cape Cod a number of years ago. I don't want to age myself. And this drink with the cranberries in it is in honor of him and his beautiful wife, Terry. So it's a real pleasure to come to you guys from the great city of Boston.
Super. Cheers.
Hey, can I ask you a question, Ken? Should I call you Ken or counselor?
No, Ken, no formalities. No formalities.
Did you decide to take on a role as an attorney after you appeared as Captain Steubing in the Love Boat? I mean, you were terrific in that show. And you were so good in that show. I wonder if that led you, because it's 8 seasons you had on a TV show. That gave enough money to go to law school and do what you're doing now.
I'll tell you, I have the Captain Steubing story in a minute, but a lot of people say I have identical twin brother, John Lakin, and we say we look a lot like Tom Lehman. I've met Tom several times, and the first time I met him, he said to me, "Man, we do look a lot alike." But I'll tell you my quick Captain Steubing story. A friend of mine's getting married on Martha's Vineyard. I'm sorry, Nantucket. That's an upgrade. So he's been married in Nantucket, and we go to Nantucket, and I forget to get my shirt, and it's a very fancy wedding, so. It's the women in the lily dresses and the men it was a real small wedding, and it was very upscale. So the day of the wedding, I forget that I don't have a white shirt. So everybody's wearing long white shirts. I walk around Nantucket with my beautiful wife, Beth, and we can't find any long shirts anywhere. I find some little alleyway in downtown Nantucket, and there's one shirt there, and it looks just like Captain Steubing with the thing on the side. So we go to the wedding, and it's so damn hot on Nantucket's harbor that I finally take off my suit jacket, come profusely sweating, and all my buddies go, "Captain Steubing."
Real quick, before we get into interviewing you actually and hear about your life, I just got a comment from R.J. Herfel, who says he looks more like Ed Asner from Mary Tyler Moore Show.
All right, now that's a cheap shot.
No, that's not a cheap shot. You're a celebrity lookalike, buddy. Ron Smith's gonna be calling you any minute. You're gonna get some work as a celebrity lookalike. Trust me.
You'll have to find me on Cape Cod.
All right.
All right. More with Ken Lakin, but first, let's do this. If you're in Vegas and you're in pain, go to Medsonics. The sound wave technology relieves pain, I should say. I've used it before. It works for me. It is non-invasive. You sit there for 25 minutes and relax, and it just relieves your pain. The website is medsonics.com, spelled medsonix.com. Al is the owner, inventor. Tell him Daly Fish sent you there. All right. So, Ken, we're obviously watching the Sox and Yanks because it's going on now. Big tradition, obviously, for you and me, and also for Fish. Yanks prevailed in the first game of today's doubleheader, even though the Sox, they loaded the bases with none out in the last inning, only to come up with nothing. What are you seeing in game two?
I haven't been watching it because I've been down here in my study, but all I know is the Reds. I heard a statistic today in one of the Boston radio shows that when the Red Sox don't score 4 or more runs in a game, their record is 8-41. 8-41. So that tells you about the pitching staff. They went cheap, unlike the Yankees at the deadline. They brought Bloom in to bring the Tampa Bay style of game. You're in the wrong city, okay? You still have the highest prices, the Red Sox, more than the Cubs, more than the Yankees, more than the Dodgers. Same goes for the Patriots. So cutting corners, we're not Cleveland, we're not Cincinnati. That doesn't fly. Cora's a great manager, gets on well with the players, but the administration, the management, since getting 2 World Series in 5 years, are resting on their laurels. And Henry and that bunch, they're off to Liverpool doing soccer things in Europe and forgot about the Red Sox. Again, not still having the highest prices. So it's not a pleasant scene with the implosion here in Boston.
So do you? You're not very confident, and to be honest with you, at the beginning of the season, I didn't pick them to get anywhere near the playoffs. So I'm pleased with where they are. I don't see them finishing strong, and I think I've been saying this for about the past 3 or 4 weeks. Are you seeing the same thing? Is this a little bit of the 1978 Boston Massacre, except on a smaller scale?
Yeah, that's a good appraisal of it, because none of the Boston fans expected much out of this team this year. They understand what the management's trying to do here, so it doesn't surprise. They get off to a good start because they had a very light schedule early on, and it beat up on the crappy teams. Now they're taking the weight of the division with Tampa Bay and the Yankees, and it's coming to roost. And we knew that was going to happen. So maybe they're lucky enough to squeeze in. But even getting Sale back, and he pitched against the Orioles the other day. Even with Sale coming back without making any significant acquisitions at the deadline, I don't see it happening this year. And it's not going to go over well in this town. It's not.
How do we save baseball, Ken? You probably heard the opening of the show. John and I, we have a huge baseball audience, and we get texts and we get comments on the show about how do you save the game. And I'm asking you, because I'm a big fan of putting a pitch clock in there that they do in the minor leagues. And I'm a fan of the Dodgers, and I'll go 2 points. A pitch clock, you got to get a damn salary cap in this game. The Dodgers payroll I just looked the other day is $392 million. Let me finish. The Dodgers' 5 starting pitchers and Kenley Jansen, their salaries, the 6 guys, right, is the same as the Patriots. How do we can we fit? Why are they? You're an attorney. You represent. Why is there not a salary cap in baseball?
Well, a couple of things. I agree with that, but it'll never happen because the ownership has been very weak with the CBA agreement from way back when. But first of all, if you're a Dodgers fan, you should be sending me a case of wine for the Red Sox sending you Mookie Betts, okay? Because that did not go over well in this town. Second to Babe Ruth's trade to the Yankees, that's up there. And I remember being at Fenway and driving in, and the biggest scoreboard or the biggest advertising board in Kenmore Square was from an LA Dodgers fan that said, "Thank you, Boston, for what you did." So that didn't go over well. But they're entrenched. And again, I've represented, as John said, I represented many NFL players for many years, particularly Boston College players, where you don't have the guaranteed contracts, and then you have the most revenue producing sport by far. It's not even close to MLB or the NBA or any of them. And here at Major League Baseball, you have the 25th guy on the bench getting guaranteed money. And I know Don Fair. I used to be at the Sports Lawyers Conference in Phoenix with him for years. They just were entrenched early on in their CBA agreements and did a fantastic job for the players. It's been so well indoctrinated into that. I don't see how the system is going to change. The game itself, I agree, needs to speed up. The game's very slow. Other than the 4 or 5 very large markets, the Red Sox could be 17 games out of first place. They still sell out. Same with the Dodgers. Same with the Yankees. That doesn't happen in other states and other stadiums. I've been to almost every single stadium in the country. So the game is not a good product. That's why you see football is literally out of control. And I've had many players in the NFL that were, secondary players, not first round picks, but mid round picks. No guarantees for anything. Injury grievances. I could spend 3 hours telling you stories about some of the horrible stories about my clients over the years who've been, not been treated fairly on workers' compensation cases, disability cases. I know that you guys might have one of my clients, Tom McManus, on. Tom's a linebacker at the Jaguars, played for Tommy Coughlin for years. Tremendous player, great, very close friend of mine. And he went through some real hassles, and I have a number of players in the protocol for the concussions now. So it's a, compared to baseball, it's a very bad system, especially in light of how much revenue was made, both with the TV contract and other contractual revenue they have in the NFL.
Okay, I'm the one schmuck that was standing in Washington D.C. holding that sign saying to the Nationals, "Thank you for Max Scherzer and Trey Turner for nothing." I mean, There's fire sales everywhere. Got to ask you, brought up something. We talked about Kurt Warner, that they're doing a movie about Kurt Warner. One of my favorite college football players ever is Doug Flutie. And there has to be a story you have about Doug Flutie, because I just saw the 30 for 30 in this guy. No, I'm sorry, the America's Game about this guy. I never knew everything that he does with drumming, and he's in a pro base. He's got to be about 60 years old. But his whole story is wonderful. Give us a Doug Flutie.
I have many, and I thought you might bring that up, and I'm very proud to be that, as Doug's a fellow BC Eagle. Doug is probably one of the most incredible athletes I've ever met in my life. He was maybe 5'10", 175, 180. He could easily dunk a basketball, easily, to the point when he was playing football at BC, the coaches would get very upset that he might break an ankle because he was always hurt. But I'll tell you my favorite Doug Flutie story is he finishes his junior year at BC, puts up huge numbers, obviously going to be a Heisman candidate going to his senior year. And Jack McNell is the coach back in the day. In fact, they ran a Canadian football team here in Boston, and I was involved representing the investment group for that. And we brought Jack in to potentially be the coach here, and we could have a team at Harvard University in the CFL. So anyways, Jack's telling me the story. At the end of the junior year, they bring a kid in from Pennsylvania, either Pittsburgh or Philly, I forget. And he's 6'5", 230. And he's on center field at BC's practice field over in Chestnut Hill in Newton. And he says to Coach Bicknell, you see that tree behind there on the 50-yard line, that tree that's behind the end zone? I can hit that on the fly. And I'm going to take Flutie out this year. I'm going to be the starting quarterback at BC this year. So Coach Bicknell brings Doug over. Hey, Doug, this is so-and-so from Pittsburgh. He said he's going to beat you up. In fact, He said he can hit that tree from here on the fly. Flutie looks Jack Bignell and the kid dead in the face and says to him, "What branch?"
That's great.
That's Doug Flutie. That's Doug Flutie.
No, Doug Flutie to me, one of the greatest things about the kid, besides his height, is the fact that he's the all-time greatest player in the Canadian Football League. Think about all the players that have gone up there. You know, Jeff Garcia's, the Warren Moons, and all the Grey Cups on 2 different teams, and then he comes to USFL. You brought up Boston College. I want to bring up Doug Flutie. I think that it's an underdog story, and I know he's got a kid with autism, and he's a champion surfer. He's in a pro surfing league right now. I mean, come on. What is there something this guy does?
He lives down in Florida. You know, he does a tournament in Pine Hills, which is a very high-end golf club in Plymouth area of Massachusetts every year. And Steve Burton, who John would knows, is a local sports affiliate here in Boston. He's a good friend of mine. Played Ocean Spray with us for many years. He helps him sponsor the tournament for him. I mean, I remember being at Penn State when BC played at Penn State. Doug put up 535 yards. The score is 37-31 with 30 seconds left. There's 95,000 people in the fans. BC maybe we have 4 people there from BC. He runs to the cone with the time running out, dives to the cone, misses it by an inch, literally by an inch, and rolls past the end zone. And the Penn State fans were coming up to me afterwards with my BC saying, "Who the heck is that kid?" And he would go and he would dominate games. We played Alabama at Gillette Stadium, the old Patriot Stadium. He put up 500 on them. Played Houston in the Cotton Bowl. I was there at the game. Put up 500 on. He was just, and Pete Mitchell is another client of mine who was a great BC receiver. And he'd always say, "Kenny, nobody had what this guy had." He was one of the million. Only 2 people in New England who ever won the Heisman Trophy. Joe Bellino from the Naval Academy back in the day when Starbuck was playing for Navy, and Doug Flutie.
Right.
Wow. You know, I can remember I actually saw Flutie play in the Yale Bowl against Yale when he was a sophomore. And he only played barely 2 quarters because it was Yale, it was an Ivy League school. They were blowing him out. But I saw him throw some passes, and I was like, that kid's arm. I mean, he literally had an incredible release, and he was right on target every time. And he was a sophomore, and I was like, okay, this kid, now I get what it's all about. So he was built.
Certain people stand out. I remember being at Georgia Tech when BC played Georgia Tech, and Matty Ryan was playing for Georgia Tech. An old client of mine, Mike Cheever, was the center for the Jaguars, and Mark Brunell was the quarterback. And Cheeve was at 6'6", 360, and I'm in a private box at Gillette at Georgia Tech. And it's a 3rd and 12, 3rd and 13, and they're on their own 5-yard line. Matty Ryan rolls out to the right, throws the ball cross field, not in an arc, chest high, hits a guy 14 yards down, first down. Cheever looked me right in the face, said, "First round pick." First round pick. Some guys have it.
Oh. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. If there's one thing everyone knows, Thanksgiving weekend, 1984, Flutie to Gerard Phelan to beat Bernie Kosar. I got to ask you a question. We're going to change gears a little bit. You being, you having so many clients in football and what have you, if you can, diplomatically, tell us the best organization or owners you've dealt with or general managers, and who's the worst.
Well, I'm glad you use the term as a precursor of diplomatically.
Right.
You obviously have to put the Patriots up there, for both Belichick's skill set. And just let me divert for 1 second talking about Doug Flutie. Remember when Doug did the drop kick against Miami?
Yeah.
The first time it happened in like 40 years. He kept harping, because Doug told me the story. He kept harping Belichick, "Please let me do it. And they're playing Miami, the last game of the last TD. All right, go ahead and try it. And he nailed it right down between the uprights.
And that was his last play. That was his last play he ever played football.
Yeah.
Yes. But that's Doug Flutie. So anyways, the Patriots, in terms from soup to nuts, organizationally wise, operationally wise, research wise, absolutely tremendous. They're absolutely one of the best organizations. I dealt with the Glazers at Tampa Bay. I'm not going to get into too many details there. And some other organizations, one of the ones that you used to like, Fish, up there in Northern California, that had some difficulty. But Kraft, with all the, again, they're very pricey. Him and Jerry Jones, In fact, let me just divert for 1 second. One of my funniest Super Bowl stories, I have this in my notes, and this is absolutely a hilarious story. It's the Atlanta Super Bowl when it was the Titans against, I forget, when the guy dove to the line and he didn't get in.
It was against the Rams.
Rams, against the Rams, that game. I left the game with 2 minutes left because I wanted to go to a private party. And my friend's like, you left the game with 2 minutes? And John will tell you for my clients, I'm only interested in Mr. Green. How can I make money for my clients? I'm not really too interested in who's going to win the game. When you go to the Super Bowl, 3/4 of the people who are there don't even know who's playing. It's all about marketing and everything else. So anyways, I'm at the Atlanta Super Bowl, and I'm at the Ritz, and I'm actually talking to Tony Dungy about McManus because he was a free agent, about having him get a look with the Colts. And there's a bus outside to go to Lee Steinberg's party. Well, Lee is one of my top parties that I rate for the Super Bowl every year, the Playboy party, the Maxim party, Commissioner's party, and Lee Steinberg's party every year. If you check that list, because the USA Today always says best Super Bowl party.
Oh, go back to the Playboy party.
That's a classic of all time. I could give you 20 stories about that because I represented Tom Arnold.
We'll have you on again.
Yes, but let me continue this story. So what happens is I'm talking to Coach Dungy, trying to see if I can get a look for McManus. And there's a bus out there going for some company, going to somewhere near where I know Steinberg's party's at. So I get me, my twin brother John, a couple of my clients. We get in the bus and we're right in close proximity to where the party's going to be. And the guy's like, well, I have to drop you off here. So I take out a quick 100, put it in his hand, and said, no, you got to go down the street right here. So he goes down the street. We pull around the corner, and the paparazzi's as far as you can possibly see. Limousine pulling up. He's in a little shuttle van. And we keep going. He's like, sir, I can't. I said, just can't's not in my vocabulary. Just keep moving. Just keep moving. So I said to my buddies, I said, listen, when we get there, because we don't have tickets, we can't get in. I said, here's what we do. You put the phone to your head. You stay right on my ass, and we go right in. So as soon as we get there, we start to walk in. We're gunning straight in. We're free and clear. I see one woman peripherally out of my side, and she's got me beeline, and she starts beelining and following us. We get inside. As soon as I go around the corner, there's Jerry Jones. I go right up to you, Jerry, Kenny Lakin, what's going on? How you doing? She comes running around the corner with the security guys, sees me with Jerry Jones, and says, shh, stop. Everybody goes, and they all back off. I said to my buddies, let's go get a drink. And then I left because Tom Arnold was in the party. I left in Tom's limousine.
All right. Ken Lakin is an attorney representing athletes and actors over 30 years in Boston and Miami, and he gets to sneak into parties like that too. Now, his site is thelakinfirm.com. He's also a longtime resident of the Boston area, which makes him our Red Sox and Beantown sports expert. Kenny, I want to talk to you quickly about Boston College, because we've been talking about how the conferences are changing and what's going on in college sports. And I kind of wanted to get an idea from you, because one of the things I've always said, and again, I'm a Big East guy, I'm a Providence guy. I hated it when Boston College went to the ACC. I don't think that they are prominent in football anymore. We talked about Flutie. They don't have that anymore. They should be in basketball. They should be in the Big East, I think, and keep football and go independent like Notre Dame does. You're a BC grad. What do you think?
I concur with that. If you remember back in the day, Joe Paterno had approached a number of coaches in the Northeast, Syracuse, BC, Temple, Rutgers, and said, let's get a Big East conference, UConn, back in the day, and everybody said no to Joe. And that was a mistake, because as you and I have talked about in the past, John, Boston is a pro sport town. We're obviously a college academic town. Duh, Harvard, MIT. We have cab drivers with PhDs in this city. So it's not that we don't have the colleges. For sports-wise, BC is like number 7. We have the Patriots, get the Reds. It's not a college football. So I get down when BC plays Clemson. You know, this pen could get into to Clemson. We have to compete about that with BC, which is a real problem for BC. But you're right. They're not going to be able to compete. They should have stayed local. I don't think they could do the independents like ND. And I don't like to talk about ND because that's an arch rival of ours. But I don't think the BC could generate the TV revenue that ND does. They're like an oil grease machine, ND. BC can't get the recruiting. They don't cut corners in the recruiting. So they just, they shouldn't have gone to the ACC. That was a mistake. They maybe should have stayed in whatever the East Conference is now. I don't even know what they call it these days. But it was a mistake. But it's always an uphill battle for BC. It just is. It just is.
You said that cab drivers have PhDs where you're living there in Boston. In Vegas, hookers and strippers have PhDs.
Yeah, they make a lot more money.
Ask John. He's a regular client at Spearmint Rhino.
Yeah.
By the way,
he spent a lot of
you got to get out to Vegas in the next 6 months. Your comp runs out at Cheetahs. So I just, Get out of here. On a serious note, Ken, legally, I got to ask you a question. Today, the Las Vegas Raiders mandated that you have to have a vaccination if you want to attend any of their home games. Legally, what kind of implications is this are gonna arise? The fans that don't want, and what could happen as far as what I'm tongue tied. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, that's a very difficult question because you have most jurisdictions when there's a public health authority who mandates a mask or mandates a vaccine to do that. That is applicable to private entities. Okay, here in Massachusetts, unlike some of our southern states, the overwhelming majority of people are vaccinated. Overwhelming majority of businesses require masks or people to enter who have been vaccinated, and you can unmask. So both as it relates to generally sports fans going into their particular stadiums and the requirements for their particular ownership, the same applies for the subject matter between players for colleges and whether they're going to get vaccinated or not vaccinated. The public health area of law is given a tremendous discretion by the courts. The case law, both in the federal level and the state level, give anything wide discretion for public health. So if you have a particular organization, a football team, hockey team, a business, or whatever it may be, and they're trying to go against the public authorities, they're going to lose 99.9% of the time. And the same applies for the coaches and the players. I don't see that battle for the unvaccinated people. They're going to win that. I don't see that it's going to happen, because even if you're able to do it in a jurisdiction, say like Florida, where the governor's trying to hold back revenue and money for school districts that are trying to mandate masks, which is mind-boggling to us in the north, that I would think you'd want to do the opposite and encourage that. And when you get to a higher court level, particularly let's take Florida, for example, if they took that up to what's called the Fourth Circuit that handles the appellate division for Florida, I think that the court would rule on behalf of the municipality or the governmental agency 99% of the time. So I think that's going to be an uphill fight for everybody, fans, players, college students. It's a long road to haul. If you look the old measles, whatever public health issue that we've had through the decades and decades, 99.9% of the cases ruled on behalf of the government.
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you a huge positive here. I know a kid that's a huge anti-vaxxer, and he went and got a vaccine today because the Bears are coming to play the Raiders in Las Vegas this season. He's not missing that game. So let's hope there's a positive come out of this. But
I agree. I'm the first person to fight for constitutional rights. My father was a mailman. My mother's a secretary. John knows we came from nothing. We worked our head. I'm the pit bull in front. Fight. That's all I've been doing my whole life as a lawyer, is fighting for the underdog. But you need to, before, as I say to my clients, before I get in that fight, let's say, who are all the players? Where do we stand? What's the likelihood of success? What's the cost value to enter this fight, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm telling you, within the context of public health, no matter what it is, if it's a vaccine for COVID or the Delta variant or whatever it may be, you're going to lose 99% of the time in those cases because the law's clear on it.
Ken, I want to hit you on this other issue too, because we've talked about this and definitely want to get your take on it. The new NCAA rules that have allowed some of the high school athletes to jump to the NCAA while also making money on their image. Two questions. Do you think, one, that's good for college sport? And second, would you like to represent one of those kids?
The answer is from a lawyer. The short answer is no. Okay. No, I think the case that came down, the Supreme Court case, NCAA versus Alston for the college students, I concur with that. That gives educational related name, likeness, image to make revenue from it. I'm 100% against for that. I'm certainly not draw it down to the high school level. I think that's drawing too much. Most of them are minors. It's too premature. So I would be against that. I would not represent anything, but I advise their parents not to do that. And all the athletes that I've represented them over the years, I've always told the parents, first of all, get your education. Don't let the coaches use you, because the system will use you. You have a better statistical chance of getting hit with a lightning bolt than you be the person who's actually going to make it to the pro level. Like I represent Todd Rice, who's the, when you were talking about the San Francisco 49ers, who's the personal trainer for both Bozes, Nicky and Joe Boza. I was down with their dad, who's a BC guy, John. And I got the skinny of what's going on. I talk to Todd all the time. Dickie and Joey are both from the Fort Lauderdale, St. Thomas, the great high school down there. Great family, tremendous family. But you get into a situation where when you get in, when you're fortunate to make it to that level, and they're both superior athletes, that they're 1 in a million. Don't let the system you use. Try to get what you can out of, get the benefits out of them, get everything you can out of them, because it's very, very difficult. And these are just physical specimens, these athletes. I mean, people that I've seen over the years on field level with the foot speed, it's just amazing. These guys are just incredible athletes. They really are.
Yeah. Last week, you're right. Last week we had on a great character actor, Stephen Root. You repped a guy that's one of my favorite character actors, and we lost him years ago, named Ed Lauder. Ed Lauder, to me, Ed Lauder playing the Jewish father in the movie School Ties was fantastic. And he's one of these guys, when you see what he looks like, oh my God, I've seen him in a million shows. Tell us about Ed Lauder.
Yeah, that's a hard one, as John knows. Ed, speaking about when my brother John was sworn in the judge, Ed came from L.A. With his wife, flew in from L.A. just to see Judge Lakin get sworn in. Just an unbelievable. I mean, I'm always getting choked up. We were at the Oscars together in 2012 when the Weinstein brothers, when they were in versus when they're not in now. The movie, the silent movie, The Artist, won Best Picture. It was a French film, and Desjardins won Best Actor. I sent John over some pictures of it. It was just a magical night to be with Eddie that night. He just had some stories like you couldn't. I'll give you one of 100 stories. We're Oscars 2012 at the SAG party in Santa Monica, and I flew in from Boston. I was kind of running late. I got it to LAX, and he's like, Kenny, you got to pick it up. Finally get there. And he's such a great guy. He's waiting with the security for me to come in. We get there. We go through the paparazzi. We work our way in. I'm walking with him across, and the guy taps him on the shoulder. Says, Eddie. He turns around and says, Chris. I don't see who it is. I turn out Christopher Plummer. So he said, hey, and they did a movie in Austria, not The Sound of Music, another movie in Austria together in Vienna. So Plummer's wife had a cast on her wrist. And I said, what? And Eddie said, that's my lawyer, Kenny Lakin. I said, what happened? Did you fall or something? Do you need representation? And Plummer's like, you need to get out of here. But Eddie, he knew so many people. He was best friends with Anthony Hopkins. They did a movie together called Magic back in the day with Anne. Oh God, the great actress Anne. I can't remember. Running a drawer her name. He was in so many films. He was best friends with he did a movie in New Mexico with Liam Neeson and P.S. Bronson. I heard you reference Bronson before, and they became best friends. And one time I was in a pub in New York City. And he called him. He called him and said, "Yeah, here with the Laker brothers." So he puts me on, and he starts doing the accent from the movie Taken, and saying to me and my brother, "I'm going to come get you, and I'm going to hunt you down." But Eddie knew anybody, and very sad story at the end. He died of mesothelioma and asbestos, and I happened to do a lot of asbestos litigation over the years. And he called me up here at my house in Boston. And it was really sad. He said to me, Kenny, don't pull any punches with me, Kenny. I know you do asbestos. I want you to look at my medical records. And then I called him back, and I told him it doesn't look good, Eddie. It really doesn't. And he was dead within a couple of months. And I remember hanging the phone up at my house here in Boston with my beautiful wife, Beth, and burst out in tears crying because I loved him like a brother. He was the most down-to-earth guy. We would go to another last Eddie thought story. He calls me up and says, you got to come down to Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut. Frank Sinatra Jr. is playing. Well, him and Frank Jr. lived together in L.A. He was best friends with Frank Jr. Oh. So He says, whatever you do, he says, Kenny, whatever you do, don't talk about his dad's songs. Only talk about his song. So we get to Mohegan Sun. We get in the audience. He stops. He's a 35-piece orchestra. He stops and he introduces the light on Eddie. And to Eddie in the back, they gave him Eddie a standing up, great actor from L.A., the whole 9 yards. I walked to the green room back after the concert. Sinatra looks me in the face, says, Counselor, I've heard a lot of good things about you. I said, Frank, I love your stuff. But Eddie was the best. I miss him dearly. It's just a fantastic individual, just a great man, really was.
I was so appreciative that I got a chance to meet him through you, and we got to spend some time together. And I was sad too. I knew how broken up you were. Hey, before we go, Kenny, let's talk about, you've attended how many Super Bowls?
16.
You've attended 16 Super Bowls. Two questions. One, are they all worth going to? And then two, if someone wants to do that, is there a trick that you've got that you can get into these games?
I'd say I'm really spoiled now because of the context I've cultivated over the years. So I basically only go to Miami, New Orleans, Tampa, San Diego. I'm going to go to LA because I want to see that new stadium this year. So we'll go out for that. We'll obviously hooked in with the Players Association and other people that we know. It's really become crazy. When I first started going, John, in Fish in the mid 90s, it wasn't that expensive. And it wasn't as many celebrities and the Hollywood crew. Now it's unbelievable. The airlines rape you with the fares. The hotels are all 3-night minimums. The limousines are 2 or 3 days. You see a limousine. Let's say we're in New Orleans. You see limousines from New York, Philly, Atlanta, LA, Chicago. They all come down. It's so expensive that it's become crazy. But I'll probably say it's been a great run for great Super Bowls. Obviously, my favorite was in the Super Bowl when the Patriots beat the Rams, St. Louis Rams. When they hit the field goal, Vinatieri hit the field goal. And I was on a radio show with McManus because I'm on his show all the time. And if you remember, they were 14-point underdogs in that game. Yeah. And in that game, the defense, because Belichick really went after the running back and the kid you brought up who's got the movie coming out. And they did a great job. But Fish were running out of gas so bad in the fourth quarter that we looked at each other and said, if they get into OT in this game, they're done. Because they had come storming back and they were ready to take the Patriots down. And I remember the announcer for the CBS, I can't remember his name, he was there for years, saying that the Patriots could have took a knee with like 1:30 go to the OT. And Belichick said, hell no. We're on fumes. And Brady brought him down in like 5 plays. And Vinatieri, I remember Vinatieri, where he hit the kick from at halftime. Him and his holder came out, and they was pointing and staring up between the uprights at some kind of a marker or something they had. And wouldn't you think that was where the kick was at the end of the game and hit it? And I just remember the New England fans running around the Superdome. We shocked the world. That was an amazing Super Bowl. It absolutely was.
Ty Law had an unbelievable kick-ass game in that game. I remember that.
He did.
But I got to ask you, Kenny, before we go, of the 16 Super Bowls you've attended, which one had the best Playboy party?
Oh, wow. That's a good, I'll tell you, the best Playboy party that I went to, this is actually a hilarious story, was in New Orleans. It was at Anne Rice, the author's house in New Orleans. Uh-huh. So we went out there and
vampires.
What's his name? Yeah, Scott Zolak, who's used to be the backup quarterback for the Patriots, and with Bledsoe was there, and Brady too. And Brady was there too. Him and his wife, because they have a place in Cape Cod, not far from my house on Cape Cod. They were there with us. I come in, and the first person I see, because if you remember the theme there was after 9/11. I come in, I see Marcus Allen. It was all red, white, and blue. He has 2 Playboy bunnies on each side, and all they have is red, white, and blue paint on them. That's all they have. So I say to Marcus, "Do you have any turpentine?" Nick Cage was there. That was a hell of a party. That's probably the best Playboy party. Maxim has some great parties too. They really do. Maxim has some really good parties. So they're good. The parties are good. Now, if you go online during the Super Bowls, Fish, like you see when they go to LA this year, just for the parties, 1,500, 1,800, 1,900, just to get in for the parties. It's crazy. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah. All right. So, Kenny, we really got a minute left. You hit some of the iconic golf courses around the world that you got bucket list. Is there a bucket list course that everybody should hit and they should do it? Is it Pebble? Is it St. Andrews? Which one is yours?
Well, I just came back from Pebble. Bill Perocchi's a good friend of ours. He's the CEO. He's a Boston guy. Great guy. Pebble's 100% my bucket list, because my brother and I, our goal was to play every single PGA stop there is, and there's 51, 52. We played like 45. So Pebble's Pebble because it's just the beauty of it. You have to go to Pebble. St. Andrews is absolutely spectacular. Doonbeg in Ireland is one of my favorites. That's an outstanding course. TPC Sawgrass. The hardest course that I think in LA is Riviera. It's an outstanding golf course. Sawgrass is a great course. Torrey Pines is another great course that I love. But all of them on that list are worth it. But definitely the top 3 would be Pebble, St. Andrews, and Doonbeg. So they're great places. They really are.
Super. All right. We have been talking to Ken Lakin, an attorney representing athletes and actors over 30 years from Boston to Miami. He has a site, and the site is thelakinfirm.com. He's also a lifelong resident of the Boston area, which makes him our Red Sox and Beantown sports expert. Kenny, thank you so much for being on Daily Fish here. I've been telling Fish about you. I said we got to get Lakin on there. We got to get at least one of the Lakin brothers on there, and so glad we can. You gave us some great stories, buddy.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. Fish, a real pleasure to meet you. I would highly recommend my buddy Tom McManus at some point to go on your show. Tom's a great speaker and a great NFL player, a great BC All-American, and a great human being. A real pleasure, gentlemen. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, if you ever get out to Vegas, look me up because I can get you in the parties, Playboy parties. That won't cost you $1,500.
I'll take you up on that, Fish. Thanks, guys.
All right, Kenny, appreciate it. And coming up, Fish and I are going to wrap things up here. But first, you need a great golf getaway. The Myrtle Beach Golf Trail has dozens of courses along the Carolina coast. Set up an entire trip for yourself, your family, or a bunch of friends. The site is myrtlebeachgolftrail.com. You can play there year-round. If you're coming out now in the fall, one of the best times that you definitely want to come out here. All right, Fish, we got about ready to sign off here, but that was a ton of fun. Kenny's got some great stories. He's got some great adventures as well, and he's been a good friend for a good, almost as long as I've been friends with you.
Well, that's the thing. When we put together the concept of this podcast, and you look at a podcast, the great thing about it is storytelling, and you learn so much. And the guy was so entertaining and great energy and great sense of humor, and the guests are going to continue that way as this show moves along its path. Next week, John, we're going to preview the AFC East and the NFC East, and we'll talk about the Patriots, his Patriots, your Giants, what's going to happen with Daniel Jones, and we're getting closer. College football starts in a couple of weeks, so we'll hit that also.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff. We still haven't figured out who our guest is going to be next week, but we got a lot of people that we're talking to, and so we'd love to get. And one of the things that we've been talking about is we'd love to get some female stars who are great, not only stars in whatever they do, but also their love of sports, and we'd love to get some on there too. So if you know anybody, you got some suggestions, you can certainly let us know. And remember, folks, this is Daily Fish. We are live from Myrtle Beach. You can catch us on Facebook at daily.fish.5, DBNA Television. We're on Roku there. We're also on Amazon Fire TV, and soon Apple TV. The website to go to is DBNA Television website. That's dbnatelevision.com. And we're also on YouTube. You can write us at dailyfish1, the number 1, at gmail.com. And you can also post to Facebook, daily.fish.5. And remember, if you can, record yourself on camera. We might actually put it on the show. Do it this way. Do it horizontally. Shoot it really quick. Shoot us an email. Send it to us at dailyfish1 at gmail.com. Fish, what else we got? We got a couple more minutes here. I know I wrapped up a little early, but tell me about some other stuff that we can fill folks in on.
Well, I got a question for you because, it came out of nowhere. It wasn't really in our script today. I got to ask you because, you're a big aficionado of New England sports. When you grew up and say, would you characterize Doug Flutie in the same aura, karma, as a Carl Yastrzemski, a Tom Brady is in New England sports? Is he that big of an icon?
I'd say he's pretty close. I'd say he's right under. I think, Brady won Super Bowls. Yaz certainly won the Triple Crown. Although Yaz never won a World Series.
Bobby Orr.
What's that?
Bobby Orr.
Bobby Orr. I would say he's certainly up in that language as far as in the higher stratosphere. No, but like you were saying, I mean, he's in his 60s and he's still performing as an athlete. And then on top of everything else, like Kenny was saying, he's just one of the nicest guys. He's just what you see is what you get. He's just a good guy and cares about humanity. And he deserves to be up there certainly as not only one of the great athletes, but also just one of the great people that's come out of the New England area.
Yeah. I just got a text from Marcus Allen. He said, now that I have turpentine, I have all kind of colors paint when I go to those events. Wow. What a great story. I mean, my mind's in the sewer anyway, so I can't get that out of my head. But That's when we know Daly Fish has made it big, is when we go to a Super Bowl and we're stuck at the parties and we never see the game.
That's true. Actually, that was one of the questions I want to ask him, is that, when you go to a Ryder Cup, you barely see the golf because there's just so many people and there's just so much small area of action. Whereas the Super Bowl, you're going to see everything. So that would be true. If we go there, and would you bring turpentine?
If I got Super 10 models on either my age right now, I need a defibrillator. Get us out of here, buddy.
We'll leave it at that. All right, folks, catch us next week. Again, it's Daly Fish. Email us, dalyfish1@gmail.com, if you have any suggestions. Fish, we'll see you next week, buddy.
Thanks a lot, John. A lot of fun today.
Absolutely.